Imagine for a moment that there's a version of you living in a parallel reality, watching every choice you make, every path you take. What if this version from another timeline is trying to communicate with you, sending you signs, planting whispers, guiding your steps? It may sound like science fiction, but it's not, because quantum physics, the most cutting-edge science of our time, says this reality you're in is just one of many, an infinite sea of possible timelines, where every decision you make branches into a new version of life. And in each of those timelines, there's a version of you, some living extraordinary joy, others facing unknown storms. But here's the wild part. They're all connected to you, deeply, invisibly, constantly. The question isn't whether these versions exist. The question is, can you hear them? Can you feel them? Because if you could, you might receive answers you've been searching for your whole life. You might realize that the wisdom you seek is already being lived by you in another dimension. And today, we're going to uncover the signs that this version of you is trying to reach out, and more importantly, how to listen. Parallel realities aren't just a spiritual metaphor. They are a real, vibrant possibility, supported by both ancient teachings and quantum science. Spiritually, it's believed that the universe branches out with every thought, choice, and intention. And in each branch, a version of you is born. One version healed faster, one version followed the dream, one version stayed stuck, and one is thriving in complete harmony with the universe. Now here's the mind-bending part. Those versions are not distant. They exist right beside you, separated not by space or time, but by frequency. And with the right alignment, you can access their guidance, their lessons, their breakthroughs, because the consciousness that created them is still you, and they are still listening. So how do you know if a parallel version is trying to reach out? The signs are all around you. You've just been taught to ignore them. Ever felt something so familiar that it made no sense? A moment that felt like you'd already lived it? That's not just a glitch. That's déjà vu. And it might be the exact moment two timelines are overlapping. For a split second, you felt a life already lived by another version of you. You caught a glimpse through the veil. And it doesn't stop there. Those repeating numbers you see, that symbol that follows you around, that one word that keeps popping up, they're not coincidences. They're synchronicities, messages, breadcrumbs, left by the you who already knows the next step. And what about dreams? The ones that feel more real than waking life. The ones where you're living a different story, knowing people you've never met, or walking through places you somehow recognize. Those aren't just dreams. They're portals. Portals to lives your soul is already living in another version of reality. And if you've ever had a lucid dream where you're aware, in control, and deeply present, then you've already visited your other self. You've already touched that wisdom. You just may not have brought it back. But the door was opened, and now it's time to walk through. Another sign. That sudden feeling you don't belong where you are. Like reality isn't quite right. Like you're off timeline, living a life you weren't meant to. It can be subtle, but powerful. It may show up as a familiar place that suddenly feels strange, a room that feels off, a conversation that doesn't sit right. These are moments when timelines collide, when your soul is saying, this isn't the path. And then there's intuition, that inner pull, that nudge to say no, that fire to say yes, even when nothing around you supports it. What if that intuition isn't just your gut, but your parallel self shouting through the veil saying, I've been here before, this is the way. Even habits, sudden changes in what you love, what you eat, how you think, can be echoes of another version of you projecting its energy into your now. You begin to shift because somewhere you already did, and that version is helping you catch up. So what's the next step? You begin aligning. You begin tuning your frequency to the reality you want to live in, the one already being lived by your higher self. Because here's the secret most people don't know. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you vibrate. And your vibration, your frequency, is shaped by one thing: your state of being, what you feel, what you believe, what you repeatedly choose. Every thought is a tuning fork, every emotion a signal, and right now, you are broadcasting the reality you're receiving. Change the signal, and the station changes. So, how do you begin tuning into the version of you that already lives the life you want? It starts with your frequency, because every version of you, the rich one, the peaceful one, the healed one, they each exist at a different energetic vibration. And you're the radio. You decide which version you're dialed into based on how you think, how you feel, and how you move through your day. That's not just spirituality, that's physics. Everything, including you, is made of vibrating energy, and similar vibrations attract. So when you feel angry, bitter, stuck, you align with a version of you who's still trapped in that same loop. But when you feel grateful, alive, trusting, you begin syncing with the version who already broke free. Here's the beauty. You don't need to become that version. You just need to match it. You don't need to force change. You need to tune to it. And that tuning happens through the smallest choices. The moment you replace a complaint with gratitude. The moment you choose silence over reacting. The moment you believe that something better is already on its way. Each of those choices is like stepping closer to the reality you want to walk in. And when you start stacking those choices, momentum builds, timelines shift, reality bends. So what does this look like practically? It means creating daily rituals that keep your vibration elevated, and not from pressure, but from presence. It's as simple as writing down 3 things you're grateful for, even if they seem small. Because gratitude is the fastest frequency jump you can make. Sitting in silence for 5 minutes, breathing in the idea that I am already whole, because silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. Eating food that makes your body feel loved, because a nourished body is a clear antenna for the soul. Repeating one sentence before every decision. Does this align with the me I'm becoming? These aren't routines. They're recalibrations. Each one shifts your resonance. And when your resonance shifts, the reality around you does too. But here's what most people forget. It's not about doing these things perfectly. It's about doing them consistently. You don't become the higher version of yourself in one giant leap. You become them in thousands of tiny steps, taken daily, taken intentionally, taken even when it doesn't make sense yet. And the more you walk in that energy, the more signs you'll receive from your parallel versions. Because now, you're not just listening, you're syncing. You'll start to notice more aligned people enter your life. You'll overhear conversations that answer questions you've been holding. You'll get unexpected clarity in places you never expected. And, most of all, you'll start to feel a pull, like something inside you is waking up. Something ancient, something cosmic, something that knows you were never meant to stay stuck. This is the beginning of conscious alignment with your infinite potential. Not through force, but through frequency. Not through control, but through connection. Because the version of you you've been dreaming of, they're not a fantasy. They're already real, waiting, calling, whispering through synchronicities, through dreams, through sudden knowing. Keep going. You're closer than you think. Now let's talk about the signs, because once you start tuning your frequency, the universe and your parallel selves start answering back. But they don't shout, they whisper. And if you're too distracted, too skeptical, too caught in the noise of daily life, you'll miss them completely. So let's make this clear. These signs won't always come with fireworks. Sometimes they arrive as a subtle nudge, a gut feeling you can't explain, a quiet moment of clarity in the middle of chaos. You'll hear a song lyric that mirrors your exact thoughts. You'll have a dream that feels more real than reality. Or you'll keep seeing the same word, number, or symbol in different places, as if reality itself is nudging you, saying, "Pay attention. These are not coincidences. These are alignments." Because when you vibrate in resonance with a higher version of yourself, you sync timelines. And those other versions of you, they begin to send messages. Some through your intuition, some through synchronicity, and some through your dreams. Have you ever woken up feeling like you just lived a different life? As if you were somewhere else, doing something else with people you don't know, but your soul somehow does. That's not just imagination, that's timeline bleed-through. When you sleep, your conscious mind rests, but your subconscious roams free. And in those moments, you may brush against a parallel version of yourself who's already solved the problem you're struggling with right now. You might see them, you might be them, and when you wake up, you carry a piece of that wisdom with you, even if it's just a feeling, a sense of peace, a sudden idea, or a newfound knowing that things are about to change. But here's the key. Don't ignore it. Write it down. Reflect on it. Ask yourself what it might be trying to show you, because the more you honor these signs, the more clearly they arrive. And sometimes, the signs show up as discomfort. Yes, feeling off, feeling like you're in the wrong place, with the wrong people, doing things that no longer light you up. That's a sign too. It's not punishment. It's redirection. Your soul is pulling you toward a timeline you haven't stepped into yet. A version of you who has outgrown where you are right now, and in that tension, you're being invited to evolve. So if you've been feeling stuck, or disconnected, or like something's missing, it might be your parallel self reaching across dimensions whispering, "You're ready." So how do you deepen that connection? How do you not just sense your parallel self, but begin to align with them? The answer lies in vibration. Every version of you exists at a unique frequency, like different radio stations playing across the cosmos. And you're the dial. Whatever you focus on expands. Whatever you believe begins to manifest. So if you want to connect with the version of you who is more at peace, more in tune, more fulfilled, you must become the vibrational match. Not someday, not after the next promotion, partner, or paycheck. Now, because the version of you who already lives in harmony, they didn't wait for the perfect conditions. They created them by tuning their frequency first. Start with gratitude, not for what you want, but for what you already have. Gratitude shifts your state from lack to abundance, from fear to love, from resistance to receptivity. And in that space, your energy begins to mirror your higher self. Then, practice presence. The more present you are in this reality, the more access you gain to other realities. Because presence is the doorway. It's where your soul whispers the loudest. So, unplug, breathe, notice. That small moment, the pause between thoughts, that's where your parallel self lives, waiting for you to remember. Quote, "Moment. You don't attract the reality you want. You attract the reality you're tuned to." And here's something wild. Sometimes the connection shows up as a sudden shift in personality. You wake up and feel different. You respond with more patience. You speak with more confidence. You crave new habits that feel like home. And you wonder, where is this version of me coming from? It might just be that you've synced with another timeline, that a higher version of you has slipped into the driver's seat because you finally made space for them. You didn't force it. You didn't fake it. You simply aligned. Pattern break moment. Transformation isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you've already been in another reality. Once you begin aligning, the signs come faster. But now the question becomes, how do you interpret them? Because guidance from your parallel self won't always arrive in full sentences. Sometimes it's just a symbol. Sometimes a dream. Sometimes a strange coincidence that refuses to leave your mind. And if you brush it off too quickly, you miss the message. So start here. When something keeps repeating, a number, a place, a person's name, a feeling you can't shake, pause. Don't run from it. Lean in. Ask yourself, what if this isn't random? What if it's a whisper from another version of me? And listen, not with your ears, with your awareness. Quote, "Moment. The universe doesn't shout, it reflects. A dream that feels real, that's a reflection, an urge to do something completely new. A reflection, a chill down your spine when someone says the exact words you've been silently wrestling with. That's not coincidence. That's contact. Your job isn't to chase signs, it's to interpret them with presence and trust. So the next time something inexplicable happens, don't rush to explain it away. Instead, write it down, sit with it. Ask your higher self, what is this trying to show me? And then wait, because sometimes the answers don't arrive in the moment. They unfold in layers, in echoes, in perfectly timed waves that only make sense when you look back. Pattern break moment. Don't dismiss the unexplainable. That's often where the truth hides. So now you've seen the signs. You've felt the shift. You've tasted what it's like to be aligned with a higher version of yourself. But here's the real work. Integration. Because it's not enough to notice the messages. You must let them change you. Not just spiritually, but practically. Quote moment. Awareness without action is just entertainment. So ask yourself, what is this version of me trying to teach me? If you've been having dreams of freedom, maybe it's time to release what's weighing you down. If you feel an inner nudge to create, express, speak, maybe that's your parallel self handing you the permission slip you've been waiting for. And if you're feeling out of place in your own life, that may not be a crisis. It may be a calling. Because here's the truth. Your parallel self isn't some far-off mystical being. It's you, the real you, the unfiltered you, the version that remembers your original frequency before the world convinced you to forget. Pattern breakout. You're not searching for your best self, you're removing what's in the way of it. So how do you begin this integration? Start small. If your higher self is calm, practice stillness, even for 2 minutes. If they speak with kindness, observe how you speak to yourself. If they create without fear, make something, anything. These aren't symbolic gestures, they're frequency anchors. Each aligned action you take, each thought you shift, each emotion you regulate. It's like tuning the dial closer and closer to that parallel version of you who's already living the life you desire. And over time, the gap shrinks. Not because the other you came to save you, but because you showed up for yourself in this timeline. So how do you stay aligned with your higher timeline? The answer is vibration, not in theory, in practice. Because your parallel self, they're not on a mountaintop meditating 24/7. They're just vibrating at a frequency that matches the reality they live in. And so can you. Quote moment. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. So what are you practicing? In thought, in emotion, in habit. If you want to match the version of you who lives with confidence, peace, clarity, then your life must start reflecting those qualities, moment by moment. And it's simpler than you think. Start with your mornings. Before the world tells you who to be, remind yourself who you already are. A 2-minute breathwork session, a whispered affirmation, a journal line that begins with, I am becoming. These are not small acts. They are energetic declarations. When you do this consistently, you shift out of autopilot and back into authorship. Pattern break. Moment. You're not waiting for alignment. You're building it. Throughout the day, track your energy. Ask, is this thought from my past or from the version of me I'm becoming? If it's from the past, bless it, then let it go. And when resistance arises, because it will, meet it with compassion, not punishment. That's how your higher self would respond. That's how you vibrate higher, without pressure. And as your vibration rises, you'll start to see the shift. More synchronicities, more peace, more clarity, more people who reflect the truth of who you're becoming. You won't have to chase signs anymore. You'll be living as one. As your energy rises, something beautiful begins to happen. The voice of your parallel self gets louder, not in words, but in knowing. You begin to sense which decisions are aligned, even before logic can explain why. You'll feel pulled, gently but undeniably, toward people, places, and choices that mirror your highest frequency. Quote, moment. It's not intuition versus logic. It's intuition before logic. That's the voice of the you who already walked this path, who already healed, already chose differently, already learned the lesson you're about to face. So trust it, because this is where real transformation begins. Not in escaping your current life, but in elevating it. Not in rejecting who you were, but in welcoming who you're becoming. You don't need to become your higher self. You need to remember you've always been them. The version of you that felt impossible, it's just been waiting for your permission. Pattern break moment. Your parallel self isn't a fantasy, it's a preview. So step into it. One aligned thought, one bold choice, one act of courage at a time. And soon, the gap between you and that reality won't just close. It'll disappear. You'll look back and realize the signs were always there, the dreams were always real, the knowing was always inside you. You just needed to believe it long enough to live it. If this message stirred something in you, a memory you can't explain, a truth you've always felt, a calling that just got louder, then this isn't the end of the video, it's the beginning of alignment. Your higher self brought you here for a reason. So pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what is this version of me trying to tell me? If you felt a shift, let it anchor. Comment below. Tell us what sign, thought, or moment hit you hardest, because your words might be the exact message someone else needs to hear. And if you're ready to go even deeper into the hidden mechanics of reality, the frequency of manifestation, and the soul's true blueprint, subscribe to Arcane Decode. Here, we don't just talk about change, we embody it together. Your parallel self is watching, your future is waiting. Let's meet them, one frequency at a time.